So we've got these two curves, marginal cost and marginal revenue. Revenue is the money that you bring in. Revenue is the money that you bring in. So every time you sell one more pizza, one more item, etc., this is the amount of revenue that you bring in. And so for at 90 cents, if this probably means that the cost of whatever this is 90 cents. Every time you sell that next pizza, that next widget, whatever, it's going to be 90 cents. Marginal cost is, at that quantity, how much did the last unit cost to make? So you can see from in this whole part of the graph, whatever this company is, their cost for each unit is less than the marginal revenue. They're making a profit. The distance between this and this is the amount of profit they're making per unit at that quantity. However, then, especially because of the variable cost kicking in, eventually we see the marginal cost curves start to increase, and at a quantity of 10,000, they actually are equal. Marginal cost is equal to marginal revenue. That is the magic place, the key place, and it's going to be so important for all of these graphs that we're going to look at today. That's the magic place that a firm wants to operate at. They're going to keep increasing their quantity of output until the next unit that they make is going to cost more than the money they earn by selling it. Why make pizzas up here when it costs you more than you can sell them for? So the magic, probably the most important thing of microeconomics is the formula MR equals MC. It's the MR equals MC rule. This is called the profit maximization point. This is the point for every firm where they will maximize their profit, where MR is equal to MC. And then what we do next is we take a look at, well, what is the environment in which the firm is operating? How much competition is there? And then that's going to dictate how much profit, if any, they're going to be able to make at this profit maximization point. Questions?
Are they going to be able to stay at that point if they want to?
Well, it's always a moving target because your costs are always moving. If you're like Coca-Cola, you don't change the price of your product very often, and we might actually get into talking about that today. But the costs are always going to be a moving target. So it's it's theory, just like anything else. It's like in market supply and demand. No, it's not easy to be there. That's all theory. How much profit is to be made? We said where MR equals MC is where profit is to be maximized. Well, here's MC, here's MR. So here is the profit maximization point right here again at 10,000. Now, if you're given the average total cost, the cost on average of each of those units, those 10,000 units, the distance between your price you get for each unit and the average total cost of each unit, that distance is the profit that you receive for those 10,000 units. This difference. The average total cost at 10,000 is 65 cents. The price you're getting for that unit is 90 cents. So 90 minus 65, you're getting a 25-cent profit for each of those 10,000 units. You take 25 cents times 10,000 units, and that's represented by that rectangle there. That's your total profit. So in order to measure your profit, you need to know not just MR and MC, but you're also going to have to get this curve here, average total cost. Now, all of the, you're going to get these graphs on there, and we'll have practice questions taking a look at these graphs. So you just have to be able to interpret them.
On the graph, will it draw out the rectangle for you, or are you?
Not necessarily, no.
Okay.
No. Will a question even ask you to create a rectangle? Possibly. The question might include the rectangle. I think the most important thing here is simply, probably the question would be, how much total profits would this firm be making? And then you'd have to know, okay, MR equals MC is the first thing I look for right here. We know that they're going to be producing at 10,000 units. At 10,000 units, they're making 90 cents of revenue per unit. The average total cost for each of those 10,000 units is going to be right here, the average total cost. And that's 65 cents. Then you can calculate, oh, yeah, total profit is 10,000 times 25 cents. The last thing we did with this kind of introductory general stuff was, is there ever a time where a firm should actually just quit and go out of business altogether? And this is called, instead of maximizing profit, minimizing loss. Here, this is a situation where this company is unfortunately getting some really low prices for its product, and they're thinking about going out of business. Again, the first thing we do, where's MR equals MC, here's marginal cost curve. Here's, let's imagine this one is future, but this is our current marginal revenue curve. Right here is where they're equal, which means the profit maximization quantity is 7,000. Now we look for average total cost to find out how much profit we're making there. Here's average total cost, and at 7,000, we're right here at 60 cents. The price we're getting is 45 cents. Not good, because it's costing you on average 15 cents more than you're actually able to sell the units for. You're losing 15 cents for every unit that you sell. So then, and you will get a question on the test, should this firm go out of business? Should it just stop altogether? And what you need to look at next is the average variable cost. Because this is the extra cost that you have to be thinking about. You really need to be comparing about. Fixed cost, that's fixed. That's there even if you stop producing. So you don't have to worry about that. But as you decide, okay, should we make 10,000 pizzas this month? Is that going to put me in a better situation if I were to go ahead and make those 10,000 pizzas? Or would it put me in a even worse position and I shouldn't make those 10,000 pizzas? So what you do is you look at the average variable cost curve right here and look to see where that is. And at a profit maximization, it turns out to be loss minimization, point right here at 7,000 units. The average variable cost right here is about 20, maybe 30 cents. So on average, it's going to cost you to make 30 cents per pizza variable cost, but you're making 45 cents per pizza. It still is a good decision to go ahead and make that pizza. You're going to be better off making the pizza because you're able to sell it for a higher price than your average variable cost that you incur for those 7,000 pizzas.
Okay, so if you're looking for whether a firm should go out of business, you look at...
Is price greater than or less than average variable cost at your specific profit maximization quantity, where MR equals MC? If price is greater than average variable cost, stay in business, produce. You're going to at least offset, you're going to make up for some of the losses that you otherwise are incurring. If price is less than average variable cost, then you are just adding insult to injury. You're making yourself even worse off by going ahead and producing. You should shut down, it's called shutdown, and stop producing. So because this level right here is higher than average variable cost, this level here, go ahead and keep producing. Now when the price falls, and I wish that for clarity's sake it had fallen more, but if price falls to 26 cents, still we look at now MR equals MC, here's MR, here's MC. Now profit maximization point where they're equals right here at 5,000. Where's average variable cost? Average variable cost is actually now, it's close, but let's assume that it's at a little bit higher. And now you're actually adding more cost if you produce 5,000 pizzas than if you don't. This is the situation where you would shut down. Questions? So you're just simply comparing price and average variable cost to make that shutdown decision. Then we introduced the idea that there are 4 market structures. I don't have my example here right now. And it has to do with the number of, I can find this pretty easily. The number of firms that you're competing with in the marketplace. And here are the four. Obviously, a monopoly is where there's simply one company that completely dominates the market. In Green Bay, a monopoly would be Wisconsin Public Service. If you want gas, electricity, power in Green Bay, you have to buy power from them. Otherwise, you'd have like you'd have power plants everywhere, wires everywhere, pipes everywhere. You'd always have to be making decisions about who to buy. No, I want to turn on the stove and have gas come out. But there are some problems, of course, with monopoly. We don't like monopolies. Why?
Because you have to go with their price.
They can basically charge you any price they want to because you can't go anywhere else.
Because like they can make a product for 50 cents and sell it for 70, and if you need it, you have to pay that.
You're
70.
stuck with that price. Yeah, they're a price maker as opposed to a price taker. Also, they don't have to worry about the quality of their service or their good because, again, you can't switch to anywhere else. We like variety. We like economic freedom. So we don't like monopolies, but they exist. Oligopoly is when it's dominated by a few firms, like airlines. There's only a few major airlines, sodas, car companies. They dominate the market. There's only a few. Then there's monopolistic competition and perfect competition. In both cases, there's a large number of firms. The big difference is that in perfect competition, they create identical products. And the example you guys will remember is the farmer's market, like apples. It's very difficult to try to sell someone, say, hey, you should pay twice as much for my apple because it is way better. Apples are apples, you know what I'm saying? You know? So because we assume that the products are identical, you have to accept whatever price the market has. If you raise your price 1 cent on those apples, your whole demand disappears because no one's going to buy it. If you lower it 1 cent, why would you do that? Because people are giving you the market price for your apple anyway. So prices tend to be very sticky, very stable in this situation. And then monopolistic competition, they do not have identical products. They do have something where they can say our service is better, our product is better, it has more features, more locations. Hey, you can use all major credit cards when you order. There's lots of ways that monopolistic competitive firms can convince you to pay a little bit more because they can convince you their products are different, and by different, better. So when we're going to be analyzing these markets, you have to identify which of the 4 markets that your firm is producing in. You'll be told this, but we're going to go through that. They operate a little bit differently. Okay. Now let's see. Last week we looked at did we start looking at one of the markets? Oh, we looked at perfect competition.
Yeah, I think so.
In perfect competition, where you have identical products, your demand curve is actually a horizontal line. If you're at the farmer's market and you're going to sell apples, you actually have a horizontal demand curve, which is, of course, we're used to market demand curves like this that we learned about in class. But the reason is, and look at, there's 44 billion pounds of apples, let's say, produced in the marketplace. And even the biggest apple producer might be just a tiny fraction of that, let's say 800,000 pounds. It doesn't matter if you make 0 apples, 800,000 apples, 1 million apples, you're not going to have any impact on the overall supply of apples. You're just a tiny drop in the bucket. So as a result, you can make as many apples as you want, and you should be able to sell them all at the market equilibrium price of 65 cents per pound or whatever. And that will be established. We should probably have a supply curve here too, but just imagine there's a supply curve and equilibrium is right here. So that we have an equilibrium price of 65 cents. All apple producers with a similar apple, same apple, have to take that. So they're price takers. They have to take whatever price is in the marketplace. Oh yeah, this one's better. So it actually shows the supply and the demand curve intersecting here to get us our equilibrium price. In the short run, I think there's one here too. Okay. In the short run, you can actually, in a very short run, make some profit at the apple market. Here's the $78 market equilibrium that we saw briefly in that previous slide. What do we do when we analyze any of these? The very first thing is MR equals MC. Where on this graph does the marginal revenue equal marginal cost? That perfect place, that magic place. Here's marginal cost, here's marginal revenue, so right here. So this value here, which is 5.5 units, is our profit maximization point. So we know this firm is going to produce 5.5 units, whatever. Here's average total cost. Remember, that tells you if there's profit available and how much. And at this point, an X value of 5.5. 51 is the average total cost. So for whatever they're making, they're able to sell it for $78, and on average it costs $51 to make it. There's a nice profit there of $29 for each unit. The total profit is $29 for each unit times the number of units. 5.5 tons or thousands or whatever that is. There's profit here for the apples. They're probably not apples anymore at $78. Maybe it's $78 per ton or something like that. However, it's not going to last. If you knew I better make it bigger for the phone. If you knew that the apple producers in Brown County were making $29 of profit for every unit of apples, and there's huge profit available, and it's easy to get into the market for apples. It's not like starting an airline or a cola company or anything, it's growing apples. I would consider quitting my job and going in apples. And so some people would do that, and as a result, the market supply of apples would shift to the right as we flood the market with more apples. And we know that when you shift your supply curve to the right, our equilibrium will shift down to here, and look at what happens to the equilibrium price. It falls. And then what's going to happen for the firm here in panel B, your situation is going to change. As price falls, that changes your profit maximization quantity, and finally at this last situation where the price changes to $48 per unit, at MR here, MR equals MC at this point, 4.5. Where's our average total cost? It's right here. Also at $48. What happened to the profit? It's gone. It's been eliminated. So you're still going to produce. You're still going to produce apples, because included in your costs also are like your wages and your benefits and things like that. So you're still doing okay, and it can still make sense to make apples, but you might be kicking yourself for quitting your other job because it's not any longer the profitable wonderful thing that it used to be.
You're not making money, but you're not losing money yet.
Well, you're earning a salary, but you've lost it's called economic profit. There's normal profit and there's economic profit. Normal profit includes your salary, your wages, and that's good. It's hopefully a good competitive, you can have a nice life. But the economic profit is the extra stuff that the lords of industry can make, and those that can then afford the big houses and other things. So normal profit versus economic profit. We've lost all economic profit here, but there's still normal profits that you can live a nice life. So the short run, there was profit. In perfect competition, in the long run, no economic profit. And that's the way the market works in perfect competition. Any other questions?
You wouldn't have to draw that second graph.
I think there have been a few instances where, for a free response question, you might be asked to draw something, or I really recommend that you could do it. Most of the time, and we'll see this as we practice, you will be given both on free response and multiple choice graphs, and then you need to just simply interpret them.
Well, like, how would I know that for the MC that it will dip down and...
Right, they would have to give you a whole litany of, like, instructions, like, assume this, assume that. It's pretty complex, so that's why I don't think it's likely. I'll look into it to see if it's been done on a free response question over the last 15
Find a
years.
way to make us write it.
Hmm?
Knowing them, they'll make a way to find us.
Yeah, I don't know. Like what we looked at for the macro question, last year's was really straightforward.
Yeah.
So maybe they're looking more towards simplification than complexity. But the minimum, you need to be able to interpret one that's handed to you and presented to you. Okay, next, let's do kind of a similar situation, and that's going to be monopolistic competition.
Did you give out any packets or something this morning?
We had two practice free response questions I should give you. So this is now a market where there is some differentiation in products. You can convince them that they should pay a little bit more for your product. One product is a little bit differently perceived to be different than something else. First thing we look for is still MR equals MC. It's actually, it's comforting. Like, it's been a year almost since I've looked at this, and I just remember, okay, relax. All you need to do is find MR equals MC. So here's MC, here's MR, marginal revenue. Now, this is for the individual firm. We look right here, so the profit maximization quantity is 200. Now, to determine what is going to be the price that this person is going to be able to charge for the product, what we're going to do is we're going to look at this quantity on the demand curve. What is the corresponding price? Remember what a demand curve is? It's the combination of all the prices and quantities demanded for a product in the market. So if here's our demand curve for whatever it is that they do, sell an apple, no, because that's not an identical thing. Making Hank the Brewer's dog stuffed animals, which apparently have been doing very well, goes up to here. So this person is going to be able to charge $90 per stuffed animal. Okay, it's high quality, high demand. He's very cute. So, right? How much profit is there going to be per unit? What do we have to look for profit? Well, that tells us where we look at for our quantity. There's another curve that we need to look at. Average total cost is what we look at, this guy right here, for profit. If we're gonna be able to sell each unit for $90, and our average total cost for each unit at this level of output is $66, we know 90 minus 66, there's $24 of profit in each of
If
these
it's
stuffed
costing
animals.
$66 to make a stuffed animal, I guess it is high quality.
Well, yeah. Okay. So, once again, in this situation, in the short run, you can produce an economic profit. You can produce extra profit over and above what your normal costs include your salary and benefits and everything. So this is a very nice place to be. Now the long run. Something's going to change to hurt this lovely situation. MR equals MC, intersecting right here at 150 units. What was it before?
200.
200? Okay.
Wait, but it also intersects,
All the way up at 50.
yeah.
All the way at the very top. Remember that the MR curve intersects the MC curve again at the top.
Oh, don't worry about that. That's not supposed to happen. They shouldn't have done that. Okay. So we're looking at this point right here, MR equals MC at 150. What's changed in here? The demand curve has shifted left for this company. What happened in the long run in the perfect competition was that we flooded the supply of apples in the market, and that greatly shifted the supply curve to the right, which dropped prices. Here, it's your firm's demand curve shifting to the left that has caused a drop in the equilibrium price. What could cause this? Well, if you are making stuffed animals and your neighbors notice that you're driving a new car and you have a new pool, and people realize, wow, there must be a lot of profit to be made in making these stuffed animals, I'm going to do that too. But actually what happens then is, because there's product differentiation, somebody could say, my Hank the Brewer's dog is better, different. That's going to actually affect the demand, because now there's a substitute for your product. So as a result, you're going to have less demand for your product, and therefore you're not going to get as much profit. So at MR equals MC, this profit maximizing quantity of 150, go up to average total costs, go up to the demand curve at $81. Now we look for average total cost. It's also $81. Boom. Once again, we have a situation where in the long run, all extra economic profit has been eliminated. Except in monopolistic competition, it's because your firm's demand curve shifts to the left. In pure competition or perfect competition, it was because the market supply curve shifted to the right.
Wait, why did profit go away?
Profit went away because before, your demand curve was out further, which means that you were able to get a higher price for your product. And there was a distance between the demand curve and the average total cost curve, which tells us about profit. And here I can put them together. Here was the original demand curve here, D prime. Now D double prime, that demand curve shifts inward.
And numerically, how did you figure out that profit went away?
Well, because once again, to determine profit, you have to look at the difference in the price that you're going to be selling your product for, and the average total cost of each unit that you sell. And that's represented by the average total cost curve here. So this was the first one. So MR equals MC here. It goes up to the demand curve, hits the demand curve here. They're going to be able to sell it for $90, but the average total cost at this quantity was only $66. So you're getting a profit. The distance between there and
Oh,
there is
so
profit.
at the other one, the average total cost was at the same level?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And marks MC, go up to the demand curve to find the price that you're going to be able to sell it for. It's 81, but that's also the average total cost curve's value at that X value. Y is also 81. So basically what happens is that the demand curve will shift to the left until it is tangent to the average total cost curve. Once again, this person will be, darn it, that was a good thing I had going for a while there, but he's still going to be able to earn a normal profit for his company. And you know, if you can find ways to improve your dog, then maybe you can, for reasons of taste, you can shift your demand curve back out to the right in the future. But ceteris paribus, that's what's going to happen. Okay. Next up, we have monopoly. And believe it or not, monopoly operates in a very similar fashion. No, here it is. This one's pretty basic. This is the firm's demand curve, that's the market's demand curve. They're identical because there is only one
The
firm
market
in
is
the
the-
market. So we don't have to spend any time with that. In the monopoly situation, there is no difference between a short term and a long term. There's only the long term. Why? Because you're not going to have any other apple growers flooding the market with more supply. You're not going to have other people come in to have substitute products because they can't. It's just you. You dominate the market, and for either government reasons or other market-based reasons, you are the only one allowed to produce this product. It could be government because we only allow one utility to exist. It could be because you own a patent on a technology, and therefore, unless the Chinese steal it, you are the only one that is legally allowed to. This could be a song or something like that. You have a copyright on a book. So there are monopolies that exist in our society, even though in general we don't like them. Okay, once again, we've got MR equals MC defined. Here's marginal revenue. Marginal cost is right here. So this is going to be our profit maximization point. Profit maximization quantity is 300. We go up, like we did with the last one, up to the demand curve to find out what is the corresponding price to go with our quantity here. And way up here, no competition. And assuming you have got something that people want, wow, it's a high price. $150 is the equilibrium, is the price that you're going to get, not equilibrium, but price that you're going to get at this quantity. Profit, we compare that price to the average total cost at this level. So here's our average total cost curve. Bing. This is our X, our Y is about $52. Profit, 150 minus 52. On each unit, you're making $98 of profit.
That would be on each unit?
On each unit. Because it only costs you $52 to make each one on average, and you're able to sell each one for $150. Just like in reality with a monopoly, they're able to charge basically whatever price they want. Could they charge $160 if they wanted to? Sure. Could they charge $170? They could charge whatever they wanted to, but because MR equals MC is profit maximization point, that's the best place for them to be. And nothing is going to change unless period of time that you have to market your patent to technology is over, or somebody comes up with something else. But, you know, this should not change. You've got a pretty sweet situation. The only other thing that we need to know about this, and you're going to probably get a question about this, is this the most socially optimal place in society for us to be at? And the answer that you're going to give is no. Because even though this is the most profitable place for the company, because there's no competition, no good change in market supply or demand, we can't ever get to a best place. And where's the best place going to be? The answer is at the minimum of the average total cost curve. It's the best situation for society if you were to produce whatever you make, and this is really any industry, any market, where your average total cost for each unit is least. Could this firm operate at this point if they wanted to? Could they decide to produce 450 units instead of 300? Yeah, they get to make all the decisions. They're the monopoly. How about this? Would they make a profit at a quantity of 450?
Yes.
They actually would. At 450, it hits the demand curve right here at about $75 per unit. And then the average total cost is at 48. So 75 minus 48.
But that would be best for us.
That'd be best for society. Because now there'd be 150 more units produced. That means 150 more people could have access to this, for example. And still there's a nice profit, 75 minus 48, which is $27 per unit. That's a hefty profit. But is that the best profit? Is that the same thing as 300 times 98? No. This rectangle is larger than this rectangle right here. So the monopolist, unless they're dumb or a great philanthropist and want to make the world a better place, if you're a monopolist, that's probably not the truth. You're going to not produce here, even though you could make some profit, and you could be here. Now, government, like with the utility, they might say, we are going to regulate you. We do regulate WPS. We force them to request rate changes. We force them to, is it still running?
Yeah.
So we force them to ask the government, the state of Wisconsin, if they ever want to change. So we might take Wisconsin Public Service and force them to lower the price to be more over here. But in a different situation, without that forcing, the firm would try to be over here. So monopoly is actually pretty straightforward. So there's one other type, and it's unusual, the oligopoly. There's actually a couple types of oligopoly. It's got a kinked demand curve. It's got like two different slopes. This one will take a little bit more thinking, a little bit different, but it's always going to follow the same general principles. And just the one thing to remember, no matter how nervous, tired, whatever you are when you get in for these tests, you see the graph, what are you going to look for?
MR equals MC.
MR equals MC, then you just go from there. Any questions? All right, we got through a lot of the absolute most important stuff here. And we'll continue on next Wednesday afternoon.
Eco paper sign for a project.
All right.
Do you still have it for your results?
Oh.
This is from last year. The first one we actually did in class because it was such a good example of what the first question is going to be. If you want to, you can go on the College Board website and see it. You know, it's got like, okay, here's the situation, draw A-rate supply, A-rate demand, show equilibrium, label everything right. What happens if this happens? And then, okay, if this happens, then what happens to the price of the dollar compared to the euro? And then what would the Fed do next? So it's a great multi-part question, but we did that in class.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a very good one. This one looks at production possibilities curve and how it has to do with the macroeconomy. And then number 3 looks at inflation, unemployment, and the Phillips curve. So if you like, you can either write full answers as you think you would during the test, if you want to just outline an answer, and then show it to me and I can give you some feedback.